Today I'd like to have a discussion that I think is extremely common for the betrayed spouse. And it's answering the question that I do get pretty frequently, which is, what do you do as a betrayed spouse when you've lost respect and admiration for your spouse who's been unfaithful? Now, I will tell you, obviously, if you have been on this video blog for a long enough time, you know that I am a former unfaithful spouse. However, I do help both sides of the equation. And I can tell you with great certainty today that what I'm going to share with you will work, provided it is implemented with a sense of graciousness and humility and intentionality. I know that these things worked for Samantha and I know that they have worked for thousands of others. But it's always about the implementation of whether or not there will be this reemergence of respect, admiration, and even desire for the unfaithful spouse. First off, it's absolutely normal to completely lose all respect for your unfaithful spouse or partner. Samantha did. There was an incredible amount of just being let down at what I had done. Now, the reality is, it was a great point of contention, and I don't know if it's like this for you, but for me, it absolutely was, and I know that for a faction of people, it's this way, is that Samantha would communicate how much she was let down in my behavior, and in my shame, and in my self-hatred, and in my self-absorption, I would say, well, you never appreciated me anyway, so this just kind of fits what you already feel, because it was never enough for you, so I've just really fulfilled what you believe of me. And that didn't work, as you can understand why. And so that threw us into a really significant tailspin, because part of my frustration of my home life was the fact that I never felt celebrated or appreciated or at any level like Samantha really admired all the work that I was doing. However, Samantha did, she just wasn't great at communicating it, and we weren't really ever in places emotionally where she felt safe enough to encourage me and exhort me, if you will. And so we had this real big gaping recipe for disaster. Now my affair comes along and the bottom completely falls out of our relationship, and it really hinged upon two big traps. One is, we did have weaknesses in our marriage in terms of encouraging, uplifting, and exhorting, if you will, one another. Secondly, it's absolutely normal for a betrayed spouse to lose all sense of respect, admiration, and really just approval of your spouse when you come to find out they've been living a double life and they've been having an affair, or they've been acting out in some form of addiction. Now, before I tell you how you can repair it, let me tell you a few things that actually make it worse. Number one is self-pity on behalf of the unfaithful, because I was feeling sorry for myself just for a little bit. Now, I was very fortunate because anytime I expressed self-pity, either my mentor early on or my only best friend that was left would call me out on it. And it just did not have a place in my life, because it would continue to make things worse, and Samantha would react to it with such intensity that I learned very early that that was not going to be productive. Number two, and it's very similar, is self-absorption. When I completely focused on what I had lost and the pain that I had created and all that I was feeling, it took away from focusing on what Samantha was experiencing. Yes, I did have to work my recovery, and yes, I did have to grieve and work through my own process, but I could not be self-absorbed. If I wanted to regain honor and regain admiration and just regain love and respect from Samantha, being self-absorbed completely stole from that process of being able to reconnect on a far more intimate level. Number three for us was laziness. when I was lazy in my recovery or lazy in my job or lazy with the kids, it really triggered Samantha, and she never really knew why until we kind of uncovered the process that we were in, which was me trying to regain honor and respect and dignity, and her trying to reclaim a sense of desire and a sense of love and respect for me. So when I was lazy about my recovery or lazy about anything that was significant in my life, it absolutely eroded, if you will, the new foundation that we were trying to build. So what do you do if you're a betrayed spouse? And how do you regain this sense of love, respect, even honor? Number one, it's expert help, because you don't have what it takes to fix your marriage. Your unfaithful spouse doesn't have what it takes. You've got to get beyond your own efforts, because the expert process is going to help you establish a timeline and help you establish expert-driven work that will help you to begin to get beyond the triggering, the flooding, the enormity of feeling stuck, and be able to slowly but surely regain momentum. It takes work, but it doesn't just take gut-wrenching work. It takes a laser focus so that you don't fall prey to the mistakes that, for general marriage issues, that might work. For infidelity, the game changer, the ace of spades of trauma and hatred and division and disconnection, that's not going to work. You're going to have to search out that scalpel-like recovery work to help you slowly but surely reclaim this new honor, this new love, this new respect that you can find. Number two, and this is a little bit tricky, is that for the betrayed, you have to have boundaries. Because if you don't, you feel taken advantage of. And then what happens is, you don't enforce your boundaries, and you get more angry with yourself than you do your unfaithful. And then you project that both onto yourself, but also onto your unfaithful spouse. And so it creates this Grand Canyon of bitterness and resentment because you didn't hold to your boundaries, because you have to expect that the unfaithful are going to buck against those boundaries, especially if they're new boundaries that have never been established. It doesn't mean that they're right, it just means that it's part of the recovery process. But if you don't have those boundaries, you feel taken advantage of, and then the anger is now both at yourself and your spouse, and it steals from this new momentum of rebuilding honor. Number three is having the freedom to not have all the answers. You don't know when you're going to have this new honor for your spouse. You don't know when you're going to start to desire them again. You don't know when this is going to come, and that's okay. You do not have to have all the answers right now. You just don't. It is okay to be uncertain. It is okay to be unsure. It is okay to not know what the next 6 or 8 or 9 months are going to look like. It's okay to not know what next week is going to look like. It is absolutely essential that you focus on today and getting through today, and that is okay. Number four is time. There's just no way around it. It's not that time heals all wounds, it's what you do with the time that can heal all wounds. But it is going to take time to allow the recovery work to actually do its work. It's kind of like medicine. It doesn't happen instantly. It takes time for the medicine to work. It takes time for the medicine of recovery work and grieving and professional help and trauma care to kick in and work. But you'll be surprised at how momentum will in fact build when you put it into practice. Number five is really unique because some betrayed spouses feel like they can forgive quicker than others. I do believe that some have that ability, and some situations are maybe not as severe as others. For some, they feel like, hey, I was able to forgive pretty quickly. The regaining of honor, that was a completely different story. And that's okay too. The power is in the recovery work that you then do to repair. I can't stress enough. If there's one word that I think encapsulates what recovery work is and what the process is, it's repair. This is about repairing the breach, repairing the incredible wound that has been established. And it's okay if you were able to gain forgiveness rather quickly, but that does not mean, and unfaithfuls, you've got to hear this, that does not mean just because they were able to forgive you maybe quicker than other spouses, that does not equate to a quick ability to now have desire and honor and respect and admiration for you.